Week 15 in the NFL had some walk-off wins, shocking upsets, and vintage performances from star players around the league. So what are some of the key storylines for Week 16? There's a monster matchup in Foxborough as the Patriots host the Bills, with the AFC East hanging in the balance. New England came away with a win against Buffalo in Week 13 despite throwing the ball only 3 times, something the Bills surely haven't forgotten.
We didn't execute how we wanted to the first game. There's 2 hungry dogs and 1 piece of meat, so it's going to be a dogfight.
Elsewhere in the conference, first place in the AFC North is also up for grabs, with the Ravens taking on the Bengals and Cincy. The Bengals haven't won the division, nor have they made the playoffs since 2015, but can take a step in that direction with a season sweep of the Ravens.
We're right where we want to be. We have a chance to win the division and make the playoffs. Can't ask for a better situation than that.
In the NFC, the Rams have now won 3 straight and appear to be clicking on all cylinders at the perfect time. LA will look to make it 4 straight in Minnesota, as the Vikings can ill afford a loss to stay afloat in the playoff picture.
We're just in the moment right now. I think the most important thing is let's play our best ball in the month of December. Let's peak at the right time and start getting ready for a really tough Minnesota team.
As for the team that made the biggest turnaround so far this year, that would be the Kansas City Chiefs, who went from 3-4 and having a 25% chance just to reach the playoffs to now being the Super Bowl favorite. They'll now seek to make it 8 wins in a row against a Steelers team that has little margin for error if they want to reach the postseason.
They need no endorsement from me. They're a dynamic bunch, particularly over the last 7 weeks or so.
Who will take a step closer towards punching their ticket to the playoffs? Expect fireworks around the league.
All right, here you go. Packers looking for that 1 seed at home at Lambeau. That's going to be Saturday. As is Colts, Cardinals. Colts on fire. Cards, a little rickety. Lost to Detroit, trying to get right back in their barn on Christmas Day. And then Bills, Patriots. You have to think that's the game of the day. Of course, it's on CBS, as is Ravens, Bengals. Huge game in that division. And again, on CBS. All right, let's get Pete Prisco, Todd Fuhrman in and start breaking down some of these games. Lines will change, so let's get to it and find out what we like. Colts at the Cards on Christmas. Cards given a point. Over under here, 49. Pete Prisco, what do you want to do?
Yeah, I think this is one of those situations where you have a team that won a huge game last week in Indianapolis, and I think the natural thing, and it's played out pretty much throughout the entire season, is to have a letdown. And I don't think that they're going to let down and not play as hard. I just think that getting up twice in a row is so tough, particularly when you got to head out back on the road. I don't think the Colts rush the passer well enough, which is a problem when you face Murray. And I think he's going to get outside the pocket as well and make some plays with his arm. So this one's concerning for me because I know the Colts can run the football and the Cardinals haven't been great against the run. But I just think the emotion of being up the way they were last week against New England, now they go out on the road, is too much. So I'm going to take Arizona to bounce back after a horrible showing last week against the Lions.
I can see exactly where you're coming from, Pete. 2 teams headed in opposite directions, but at the same time, the line reflects that. We'd have been looking at this number in that 3.5-4 range if the game was played last weekend. But you talked about Arizona's defense, and that's my main concern in this spot. So rather than getting involved in the full game side or the full game total, I want to target the Colts offense to be a little bit more dynamic throwing the football than what we saw against New England. I think they'll have success running it, whether it's Jonathan Taylor or Naheem Hines. And when you look at Arizona defensively, we knew that they overachieved for the better part of the season. They've shown some vulnerability in recent weeks. So I'm going to take the Colts team total over 24. I think if Arizona is going to win, which they can do, their offense is going to have to rise to the occasion. I am a little bit concerned, though, the Colts will be without offensive lineman Mark Lewinsky.
Well, look, I'm worried about recency bias. New England goes down. I mean, the Colts look great. You can't look worse than losing to Detroit. But run games travel. James Conner game time decision. I'll take the Colts. Cleveland at Green Bay, 7.5 here. 45.5 is your total. Todd Fuhrman, what do you want to do?
Yeah, EK, when we broke this game down earlier, sent in my notes and then see that J.C. Tretter is on the virus list. So there's a good chance the Browns will be without their starting center, which is a big blow in this kind of matchup in hostile territory. I do expect Baker Mayfield to be back under center, along with a couple other key contributors for Cleveland offensively. The key for Cleveland to be the side in this game is going to be their ability to run the football, keep Aaron Rodgers and company on the sidelines. I know Green Bay 6-0 straight up and against the spread at home, but this is a little bit of a tall task, asking them to cover 7.5 against a Browns team playing with some desperation. Short week, yes, it's a concern, but at the same time, I think Cleveland getting some key contributors on both sides of the ball back allows them to stay in this game from start to finish. Look for Nick Chubb to have a big day. I'll take Cleveland plus the points.
Yeah, I'm on the other side on this one. I think when you play Aaron Rodgers, you have to be able to rush the quarterback, and they don't have Takk McKinley now. He's out, and Myles Garrett, if he does play, and it looks like he's going to try to play, was probably a shell of himself as a pass rusher, and he is the guy that makes that entire defensive line go. So if he can't pressure Aaron Rodgers, he's going to sit back there and pick that secondary apart. And I think your formula is right, Todd. I mean, you want to run the ball to keep Aaron Rodgers off the field. That's all great in theory, but when you get on the field, you look up and you're down 14-0, that goes out the window. So I think this is actually a relatively easy play in my mind. I think the Packers are going to handle them by 10 to 14 points. So I'm going to lay the 7.5 and take Green Bay.
I'm going under. I think you're both saying the right thing, which leads me to take the under. Cleveland's going to try to shorten the game. They are going to run the football with Nick Chubb. They are going to want to take that clock off. They're going to make Aaron Rodgers throw it and pick them apart, but that takes time. 45.5 is not a low total. Give me the under 45.5, and especially if Cleveland can't score in this game, if they're really banged up, then it's really hard for this game to go over. Bills, Patriots, sort of game of the day. Patriots by 2.5 up at Foxborough. 43.5 is your total. Pete Prisco, what say you?
Well, I looked at the weather. It's not going to be windy, thankfully, because that was awful to watch the last time these two teams played. It was everything and anything I don't want to see on a football field, which is quarterbacks who can't throw the football. The weather should be fine. It might be a little snowy, might be cold, but it's not going to be windy. And that plays into the Buffalo Bills and what they want to do. I think they're going to have opportunities to throw the football. They were embarrassed last time out, particularly on defense with their run game, getting the Patriots' run game, ramming it down their throats. I think they'll be much stouter and much more disciplined this time around on defense. And I think Josh Allen's going to play well. The winner of this game is almost assured of winning the division. The reason I say that, look at the remaining schedules. If Buffalo wins this game, they have 2 winnable games at home to close out the season. I definitely think if they win the division. If New England wins, they lock the division. So it's an enormous game, and I think Josh Allen and gang will show up and play well. I hate to go against Belichick after a loss, particularly at his place, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Buffalo.
I know the stakes are high and the level of familiarity is there, but I'm going to go over the total because I think this number is artificially low based on the results of the first meeting between these two teams. A game we saw in New England 14-10, played in hurricane force winds up there in Western New York. I know these two defenses, they check all the boxes, at least on paper, but you dig into some of the Bills' defensive metrics, and that strength of schedule leaves a lot to be desired. Meanwhile, on the other side, I think Buffalo has the playmakers to attack this New England secondary. J.C. Jackson can only cover so much of the field. Even without Cole Beasley, I love the emergence of Gabriel Davis, giving Josh Allen a bona fide third option. I think last week, Buffalo showed an ability to run the ball. They're not going to have to do that in this particular spot. Meanwhile, on the other side, Buffalo couldn't stop the ground game in New England when they knew it was coming. Now you're going to see a little bit more balanced attack. I actually made this total more in the 45 range. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but 44 is the most important number when you're talking about totals in the NFL. So based on value alone, I'm going over the total here.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bills. It will be wet. It will not be windy. About 55% chance of rain, and it's going to be snow depending on the weather, right around that sort of sleep. It will be wet, but not windy. I'll take the Bills. They have to be so motivated after what happened in that first game. Ravens, Bengals. Cincinnati, can't bet with them, can't bet against them, but you're going to have to do something here. Bengals giving 3 to the Ravens. I don't know who's going to play quarterback for is it going to be Lamar Jackson? Is it going to be Tyler Huntley? They're very beat up. Total's 45. Good luck with all this. Todd.
I'm going to go over the total here in this game as well, EK, and I'm going to work under the assumption that it's a healthy Tyler Huntley, more so than Lamar Jackson, who missed practice for the second straight day this week. Huntley showed to be slightly more decisive leading this Ravens offense. He stretched the field last week against the Packers and didn't wilt when he faced a 31-17 deficit. The reason that Huntley's going to have to be good is because the Ravens defense is an absolute mash unit. And Joe Burrow earlier this season, when the Ravens were healthier, was able to pick them apart to the tune of 416 yards passing. Wink Martindale poking the bear earlier this week saying, you know what, we're not going to double team Jamar Chase because he's not an elite receiver like Devontae Adams. Well, probably words that you might not want to share when he went for 200 yards against you the first time around. We know Baltimore is ultra aggressive. It leaves their defensive backs on an island. Cincinnati has the playmakers and space to exploit them and convert on big plays. I think this total is a little bit too low. I'm going to go over here despite everything on the line for these two teams in the AFC North.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game as well, but I like the Bengals. I think they're the better team. I think when you look at this Baltimore team, the way it is constructed right now, with all the injuries in the secondary, I think it's a golden opportunity for Joe Burrow and gang to really get after him like they did the first time around. And let's not forget, the Cincinnati defense is playing much better. Who plays quarterback? Look, Lamar Jackson wasn't playing that well when he was in there. He wasn't doing much since October. And Huntley did some good things, but some of that was late in the game. I think this is a game for the Cincinnati Bengals to show people they're for real, and I think they will. I'll take the Bengals minus the points.
O-V-E-R. I'm with Todd, and you know I never like the overs, but this would be the game over because, as you know, one of my rules, the Cincinnati Bengals can't bet on them. Can't bet against them. I always go with the total. I don't trust them. And every time I bet against them, they show up and do something great. So there you go. All right. These are going to change, whether it be public perception, COVID, other stuff, however you go. What's the one that you got to grab now? What's the top look ahead spot, your very best one that we should go run to the window today? Pete Prisco.
I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I liked them when the number was higher before all the COVID issues with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and I still like them. I think this number is way too high, 7.5, probably 8 in some spots. It might even end up creeping a little higher if those guys come back. They're desperate. You know, the Chiefs are playing for a seed and a division title. The Steelers are playing for their playoff lives, and I think they're going to go in there and play some of their best football. Remember, the Steelers don't stop the run. That's their problem. Against the Chiefs, that's not much of a problem because they don't run the football. So I think this is going to be a game for the Steelers to hang around. I'm going to take the big number.
And I'm going to go back to the game we just broke down with the Bengals and Ravens, a game where I'll go over the total. When you look at this Ravens secondary, it has been the definition of boom or bust, and there have been a whole lot of coverage busts all season long. No more apparent than when they played the Bengals the first time around. Mother Nature not working against us in this particular spot. I think Joe Burrow didn't throw the ball enough on early downs last week against that Denver secondary. That all changes here. Joe Burrow leads the league in touchdown passes of 25-plus yards. The Ravens are notorious for giving them up, and they've given up 37 passing plays of 25-plus yards. A lot of those have gone for 50-plus. I think there's big play potential all over. If the Ravens are forced to abandon the run game for any extended period of time, Tyler Huntley will feel more than comfortable throwing to Mark Andrews, who should have a massive day against a Bengals linebacking core that struggled to slow down Noah Fant last week. They struggled the week before against George Kittle. I think both these teams comfortably into the 20s. I'm going over 45.
All right, there you go. Very well done. Let's take a look and see exactly what our guys want you to do when it comes to the look-ahead spots. Yep. Team total over 24. It's now 24.5. He says, I don't care. He likes the Cards. They go opposite sides there in Browns-Packers. Different sides on the New England game, although Pete likes the Bills. Again, wet but not windy, apparently, is the forecast there. And Ravens-Bengals, again, Todd playing the overs. And again, there may be opportunity with all this uncertainty, and there could be points in some spots with some blown coverages, including in that Ravens-Bengals game.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.